You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, as always, wearing a shirt for a team that is much more fun to watch right now, it's Skyler Timmons.
Indeed. Go Avalanche and Nuggets.
Yeah, two great games to start the playoffs. The Nuggets coming back from behind to seize victory in a tight contest against the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Colorado Avalanche looking great and having an extremely hilarious fluky goal against the Dallas Stars, both in game one.
Man, can you imagine a team being able to come from behind when they're losing and be able to win a game?
Man, can you imagine a team that's fun to watch?
Imagine what it's like not having a goalie giving up 4 goals within the first 2 minutes.
And even if he does, you can rely on the offense to, pull back ahead so that a 1 or 2 goal deficit isn't overwhelming to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
In case you couldn't tell by this very incredible and not at all thinly veiled,
the Broncos need to have a lot of work to do.
Chat. The Broncos are fun to watch. Like, that's the thing. Every other sports team in Colorado right now is fun, except for our best friends, the Colorado Rockies. And
our frenemies, if you will.
Somebody in that front office did appear to get the memo, because after an absolutely putrid start by this team, somebody got fired. And that was hitting coach Hensley Bam Bam Meulens, who was relieved of his duties following the series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. In his place, Clint Hurdle has been named interim hitting coach for the rest of the season. And the question is, Skyler, do you think this makes a difference at all?
In the sense of, are the Rockies immediately going to start hitting and everything? Who knows? It's going to take some time. But in the sense of communication-wise and hopefully maybe just changing the narrative and changing just the direction and vibe of the hitting, yes, I think Clint Hurdle's the type of guy that can do that. He has he's well-liked. He's a good, personable individual. He's very upbeat and positive, but he's also a very straight shooter. It's like he'll tell you like it is. He's not going to sugarcoat things. But he's a really upbeat guy and positive. A good career of teaching hitters and motivating players. He's done that throughout his career. His history of working in the Rockies system as a hitting instructor and as a hitting coach and as manager, and then his time with the Texas Rangers, that team that went to the World Series when he was hitting coach, and then goes to Pittsburgh, his career there as manager and helping inspire them and getting them to the playoffs for the first time since 1992. So he's a guy that's good at motivating players. So in that aspect, I think that's probably the best thing about Hurdle stepping in, is because he's just a good baseball guy that knows how to work with people. He's a good people person, I think, is something that maybe the rest of the Rockies aren't as good at with Bud Black and the other guys, but he knows how to motivate a player. And so I think that aspect and the communicating and just changing the tone and bringing new life into this offense, I think Clint can do that.
I've been really surprised by the very mixed reaction of the Rockies naming Clint Hurdle to this coaching staff as an interim coach. A lot of people have said a bunch of different things, and to address just some of them, any interim hitting coach was always going to come from within the organization. Mm-hmm. They were never going to short notice hire someone from outside the organization in any capacity at this point in the season. They haven't had any time to search. Any sort of long-term hitting coach coming from outside the organization, that's going to come this offseason or very late in the season, and they'll be named once the offseason starts, when an actual search can be conducted. For me, it's that you have a guy in Clint Hurdle who I think was willing to do the team a solid here to step in as the hitting coach. He's got experience as a hitting coach and hitting instructor. And it's also that you need a guy on short notice And I've seen a lot of people go, well, this is Clint Hurdle trying to get back into the manager seat, trying to get his way back into a dugout. And, Skyler, you and I agree on this, is that Clint is very much enjoying his retirement. He likes being able to have his home base at home in Florida. He likes getting to travel around and see the minor league guys and be like an instructor.
Yeah.
For him, this is very clearly I'm going to step in and do the team a solid, and then I'm out after this probably. I do not see him becoming, the manager next season or a permanent solution as the hitting coach. And maybe if Bud Black is relieved of his duties at some point this season, they would probably move Hurdle to the interim manager role. But I just don't see him staying in any sort of managerial capacity.
No, he would kind of be that guy because he's had other opportunities. Now, remember when Ron Washington got hired as the Angels manager? Rumors that Clint Hurdle's going to leave and go be his bench coach or something. But no, he decided he's like, no, I like what I'm doing. He likes what he does of going around and having the opportunity to spend more time with his family and and be able to go work around the young hitters, kind of move at his leisure. But that's more his speed, and he said as much. That he's joked. His wife said he failed retirement. No, he couldn't stay away from the game for very long out of retirement, so quote unquote. But I think he would have the wherewithal of like, I don't want to do this long term. I'm going to do it now because I can. I think he's committed to the Rockies. He wants them to win, and so having those discussions with Dick Monfort, Bill Schmidt, Bud Black, feeling we need to make a change here in this putrid offense that we talked about. Coming off that series, Evan, where they were shut out in 3 games, and so they come Monday and have those conversations. We got to change something. This is not who the Rockies need to be. This is not what they should be offensively. Having those conversations and then deciding, okay, we're going to go ahead and make a change. And Hurdle, I think, in the meantime, I think it's about laying a foundation. And if you need somebody to do that, I think a proven hitting instructor, a guy who has big league experience, coaching. Because I think we've heard people like, well, maybe like, what about bringing up Jordan Pacheco or Vinny Castilla could do it. But again, these aren't big league hitters. Vinny doesn't have that experience being a big league hitting coach. He can share pointers, but you need somebody with a proven track record at the big league level, and Clint Hurdle has that. And so,
and
I've lay the foundation.
I've even seen people be like, well, why didn't they just bring in Charlie Blackmon since he's a special assistant? And it's like, do you really want his first stint at coaching to be trying to manage this absolutely putrid Rockies offense? Yeah. And I do somewhat agree. Like, at some point, you've got to give Vinny more of a coaching shot. And honestly, what I would like to see during this stretch, during this season, is maybe Clint Hurdle taking Vinny under his wing to sort of help him develop as a hitting coach. Well, and that could be interesting, but
it's like, does Vinny even want to do that though? Like, he's got a pretty cushy job right now. I don't know if he's really looking to change that up anytime soon.
He gets to hang out in the dugout whenever he wants, drive his purple Ferrari around town, and overall just have a good time.
And then he can coach Team Mexico or manage somewhere during the off season. Like, I don't think Vinny's really in a hurry to go anywhere fast. I think he's getting all of his, all his jollies wherever he needs to. But you bring in an established guy like Clint Hurdle, who the history here, and he is a good motivator of people. Mm-hmm. And I think even like in this first couple of games of their home series against the Nationals, you can see a little bit of a difference, not too much. Like, the problems are still there. It wasn't going to change overnight, but it feels like there's just a different vibe, even just a little bit of just maybe Clint having some conversations with guys and whatnot, or bringing some positivity into it. But we'll just see. We have to give it time and like reassess this when the offense when he's been fully ingrained in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And like, don't get us wrong. This was never going to be an immediate fix. If anything can be fixed about this team, the strikeouts are still going to be a huge problem. They struck out on Saturday, like 15 times. They struck
17 times.
They struck out 12 times in today's first half of the doubleheader. and they're going to strike out a ton of times in the nightcap.
Yeah.
That is not something that any coaching staff can come in and immediately fix. And that's the thing, is that's why I was willing to give Hensley Meulens the benefit of the doubt in his first 2 seasons of, this is a organization in desperate need of a new hitting philosophy and a bunch of changes. And that wasn't going to be fixed after 1 season, especially, 2023, the Rockies set a franchise high for strikeouts. And, Hensley Meulens comes in and says that was embarrassing. I hate to be a part of that. And you give him at least another chance to fix it. Now, when you have a second straight season in which you've now had 2 seasons to install your hitting philosophy and coach these guys up, where you are, again, leading the league in strikeouts, setting a franchise high in strikeouts. You set the Major League Baseball record for games with double-digit strikeouts in a season. And Skyler, I think you'll agree with me that I wouldn't have brought him back at all to start the season. Yeah. But they chose to keep the coaching staff intact with PJ Pilateri falling on the sword to keep Hensley Meulens having his job. And then the Rockies just got off to there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, a putrid, rancid, ugly start to the season, where they have some of the fewest runs scored in the league, the most strikeouts, the highest strikeout rate. They are swinging at everything and hitting nothing. And something had to change.
Yeah. And is Bam Bam the entire problem? No, probably not. But like we're saying, there was no difference. He brought in for a specific purpose and hadn't fulfilled it. And at some point, you just have to make a change, a new voice. Now, would it have been preferred if maybe some other changes had happened or will happen, hopefully, at some point? That's a conversation for another time that we don't need to rehash right now. But for Bam Bam, it's the Rockies. We're realizing, something needs to change. This is unacceptable. Even if it's just a tiny little scapegoating of their hitting coach. No, since he was hired, so since 2023, up till the time he was fired, Evan, on Thursday, the Rockies lead all of baseball with a 26.3% strikeout rate. Since Bam Bam took over as hitting coach to when he was fired, Rockies have the worst. They also have the lowest walk rate in all of baseball, or the 5th lowest, that is, 7.4% in that time frame. Now, the batting average, balls in play, that's pretty good, a 311, but across the board, you can look at a lot of their things, and it's just not up to snuff to what the Rockies have done in the past. And so, a change needed to be made, needed to happen. Throw on base was one of the worst in baseball over the last 3 seasons, 2+ seasons. So it's unfortunate, but I think what we're finding too is you have to put more thought into hitting coaches. You have to fit the hitting coach with the personnel you have on your team, with the caliber of players. You can't take a Bam Bam Meulens, who his work with the Giants was a lot of contact hitters, guys that could put the ball in play. That played with San Francisco. That's what they were built for, and he could teach that and coach that. The Rockies are built around a team of guys who are supposed to be power hitters, be able to hit for power, put the ball in the gap. They're going to be an aggressive swinging team and do damage. They're not a contact small ball, we're going to draw walks type of thing. We're going to swing and we're going to do damage. Bam Bam's just not that type of coach.
Yeah.
Hurdle is, I think, because that's the personnel he's worked with in the past.
And the problem is, it's not just Bam Bam. It's an organizational issue. We see this at every single level of this team. Incredibly high strikeouts, not a lot of walks, not nearly enough contact for how much they're striking out.
Yeah.
And Bam Bam is the most immediate symptom of that disease. And so you are trying to make at least somewhat of a change. And honestly, I doubt he's going to be the first person to get fired. He's going to be the last person to get fired this year. He's the first because he's the most obvious, I don't want to say scapegoat, but the most obvious glaring issue.
Yeah.
And, Bam Bam's a good baseball guy. He's been in the league for many, many years as both a player and a coach. but I never thought he was a great fit for this team. I thought it could be interesting, but he just wasn't able to make it work because his sole job was install a hitting philosophy where we cut down on strikeouts, increase contact, put the ball in play. And it just didn't work. And, the strikeouts are as bad as they've ever been. And I've discussed it at length where the Rockies, they have no plate approach. They have no plate discipline. They have no plate vision. It is swing, 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 swing. Is it out of the zone? Swing at it. Is it in the zone? Swing at it. Are you going to hit him either time? Nope. And that's been the big issue with this team and you can see it with a guy like Zach Veen, who's been in the organization now. He was drafted in 2020. And he missed some time due to injury, but he's been in this organization for almost 5 years. Mm-hmm. And up at the big league level, if you throw him a fastball high in the zone, he's going to swing right through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like reading this article over on MLB.com from Thomas Harding about Clint Hurdle, planning to go be a helper for the offense and whatnot. But Michael Tolley said he's a different voice who has a different perspective on a similar message. He's got new ideas, and he's going to help us create an identity that I feel like we've been lacking the last couple of years. And I think that's kind of it, Evan, of changing the narrative in this organization. And it's got to start at the top with the Rockies themselves, the MLB team, so then it can trickle down of here's what we're expecting at the major league level. This is what we need you to do to get here. Because it feels like that's been missing, over the years, Evan, where it's a lot of, you're just going to hit your home runs, and then a guy comes up and they immediately struggle.
Yeah.
It seemed like the standards were different level to level, and the performance-wise, I thought you're going to do good, and then we're going to call you up to the Rockies, and then you're just going to fall flat on your face and eat dirt because you are clearly overmatched by everything. You're going to come to the Rockies, and you're going to get overmatched.
Yeah. And we'll talk later in the show about how some of these rookies have been performing. It's not been all bad, but there's been a lot of struggles. And I like what you pointed out from what Tolia said and in that article is the trying to establish an identity, because I feel like in the most recent parts of the Bud Black era, especially after the 2018 playoff run, there really hasn't been an identity for this team.
Yeah.
We've asked, who are the Colorado Rockies? Because they're not a team of power hitters, but they don't make good contact. They strike out all the time. They don't take walks. They're a draft and develop team, but they struggle mightily to develop the players that they draft. They keep trying to get this pitching staff working, and it just always seems to fall flat. There's no one real thing that the Rockies excel at where you point and go, that's Rockies baseball right now. This is who this team is. And, this year going into it, it was supposed to be defense, and the defense has been terrible. One of the worst defensive teams in the league right now. 3 errors in this morning's game. And this is despite,
from the same guy.
Yeah, tough day there. But you have the owner of the team preseason going, I think this is going to be the best defensive team in league history. And, that's Dick Monfort saying something silly. He always does. But I will say it's like the Rockies at least have had a reputation for sterling defense over the last couple seasons, really since over the last 10 plus years, going from Arenado at third to McMahon, going from Tulo at short, Story to Tovar. Infield defense has never been a problem. And despite really minimal changes this year, minus Tovar being injured, the defense has been awful this season. Lots of uncharacteristic miscues, lack of focus. And so it's just, what is this team's identity? And the thing is, like, Clint Hurdle may be a retread because he, 20 years ago, he was the hitting coach. 15 years ago, he was the manager. But when Clint Hurdle was the manager, when Clint Hurdle was the man in charge, this team had an identity. And they don't right now. And if it takes Clint Hurdle coming back in the clubhouse to help forge that identity, at least temporarily, I'm for it.
Yeah, no, he was the face of Generation R as the manager.
Todd and the Toddlers.
Yeah. And then, as a hitting coach, the team had an identity when he was a hitting coach. No wonder Don Baylor and Jim Leland and Buddy Bell during those late 90s, early 2000s, No, it wasn't necessarily the Blake Street Bombers, but it was still a team that was known they're going to go out and they're going to hit the ball. Now he was a hitting coach during the pre-Humidor era, but still, it was a team that was going to go out and they're just going to beat the poo out of whoever was pitching that night, especially at Coors Field.
And they made good contact too. Like, you got to make good contact to hit that many home runs, Humidor or not. And, hey, he was the hitting coach in the season when Todd Helton should have won MVP.
Mm-hmm. He was pretty much hitting coach during the entirety of Todd Helton's early start, and then was with him throughout most of his career.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to just sit down and see where things go from here. I don't think Bam Bam's going to be the last person to be dismissed this season. If he's not the only person dismissed during the season, I'll be surprised. But definitely during this offseason, I think there's going to be a lot of coaching overhaul. And I would not say that Bud Black's job is safe right now. Like, they keep saying that it is, but I don't think that they fire the hitting coach less than 20 games into the season, that they put a guy like Clint Hurdle back in the dugout.
Yeah.
And consider Bud Black's job to be safe.
I feel like with Bud Black, it would come after the All-Star game, after the trade deadline. So early August, maybe. And then they'd be like, okay, we're just going to go somebody interim, because it just doesn't happen too much anymore of firing a guy mid-season before the All-Star break. I think it's only been a handful of guys since 2018, and they were all in 2022. Nowadays, it's like, all right, we're going to get rid of them early August and then finish out the season, then look in the offseason.
I do think there's a chance it happens before the All-Star break, though, especially if the Rockies continue on just the brutal skid that they are on. And, we're going to take a quick break, and that's going to be one of the things that we talk about. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oh, I was going to leave.
Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. We are talking Colorado Rockies baseball after the firing of hitting coach Hensley Meulens. And Skyler, you know what else we have seen since the dismissal of Hensley Meulens is the roster has just been all over the place. Tons of moves, tons of changes. It's all over the place. Lots of different moves. Just today, we had a bunch of different changes, especially during this Washington Nationals series. There's been a lot. So we might as well just start from the top. The two big ones, Ezequiel Tovar is sent to the injured list, retroactive to April 16th or 17th with a hip injury, hip discomfort. This hip injury occurred in the very first game of the season against Tampa. And honestly, it's probably one of the reasons why he hasn't looked quite right defensively at shortstop. He's normally pretty sure-handed, but he's making mistakes, doesn't seem to be getting to the ball as quickly and moving quite right. So he's been added to the injured list. And, in his place, we've had Kyle Farmer play some shortstop. And we also had Aaron Shunk added back to the 40-man roster and called up this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's tough because Tovar's one of the bright spots of this team. One of those leaders on the field offensively and defensively. And, the hip injury not just hurts you on defense, but it hurts you at the plate because he hasn't hit a home run. He's had some doubles and everything, but just not quite himself there. He looked better at the plate, like better discipline-wise, but it still hadn't translated into power or anything. And so it's tough. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, and that stint on the IL will give him some rest and strengthen up that hip. But it's already a problem that we knew with the Rockies is that the depth is not very good across the board in a lot of areas. And when you're banking on Tovar going out there playing 162 games a year, it hurts when he goes on the injured list, because then, having Tyler Freeman on the injured list as well with an oblique, who knows how long he'll be out and everything, that then you have to rely on Kyle Farmer and Aaron Shunk, both of whom are not natural shortstops, so to speak, at least not anymore. Makes you worry a little bit they've done fine so far, but it's not ideal to have them out there.
No, and it's tough because you don't really have a lot of other options, especially at shortstop. If anybody else goes down, you're going to have to call up Ryan Ritter or somebody from
Yeah.
AAA. And you could potentially, so they did when Tyler Freeman went on the injured list, they called up Adel Amador, who can, in a pinch, play shortstop. He can, but he has largely transitioned away from shortstop to second base. He used to primarily be a shortstop before, the 2023-2024 season, and he's since been transitioned mostly to second base, but he can play it in a pinch. The problem is, outside of Aaron Schunk, who, like you said, not a natural shortstop, and Kyle Farmer, not a natural shortstop, you don't really have a lot of options, and it puts them in a really tough predicament. And it's just this depth is being challenged very early. And, Tyler Freeman, his oblique injury seems a little bit more serious than they originally thought. When you brought him in specifically to play second base and center field after the Tyro Estrada injury. And, you can tell sometimes that Kyle Farmer's not super comfortable playing in the infield, where, there was a play yesterday where it was double play depth and he was not in the right spot, and it caused them to not be able to get that double play.
Yeah, just mental lapses and everything. Because Kyle Farmer's notably a decent glove. Like, he's got that history and reputation of pretty decent glove. He's not winning the Gold Glove anytime soon, but pretty decent.
Yeah, he'll get you done.
So I've just chalked that up to a mental lapse and everything. But yeah, it's testing your depth immediately, because then it just forces you to have to make other moves that maybe you didn't want to do. At some point, then, oh dang, we'll have to. Who do we have to designate for assignment off the roster so we can add a shortstop type of thing? And or what's a desperation signing that we have to do to add some minor league depth down in the minors? Or how long until we had Owen Miller to the big league roster, and because he can play shortstop? And so it just starts making you worry of, okay, let's hope Tovar's not, this isn't a long-term thing. He can get over pretty quick, and we can endure this for now, but a full season of this, we're gonna have to do something. And like you said, Ryan Ritter would have to get called up if he's out a significant amount of time. Yeah,
it's either that or you've got to
shortstop.
sign or trade for a shortstop.
Yeah, and
it's tough. And we've got several guys who are out long term at this point. Austin Gomber has been moved to the 60-day IL. He has gotten some PRP injections in that shoulder, but he still hasn't proved full range of motion. He's still not throwing. And he says he hasn't had any setbacks or anything. He's not expected to have surgery. But if he still hasn't started throwing, that means we're not going to see him until like late May at the earliest, if we see him at all this season. And you know how the Rockies tend to go when it comes to these shoulder injuries, where you kind of wonder, are they actually coming back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's a lot to worry about and everything. And I'm trying to look up, Evan, of who could be available for them to be able to sign as a shortstop. So far that I'm seeing, it's I'm trying to look available guys. 3 guys, or 2 guys, maybe. Aledmus Diaz, who's 34, 35, and Ieri Adrianza, who's 35. That's what's listed, at least over on Spot Track. So not a lot of options in the free agent market. At least pure shortstops, you'd have to get a little creative.
Yeah, it's tough. And the thing is, like, if anybody goes down during a game, they just really don't have anybody.
Well, I asked that question. Like, Amador gets hit on the knee with a fastball. If he had to get taken out because he was pinch hitting for Farmer, what do you do? It's like, well, I think you'd have to move Ryan McMahon to second, and Sean Bouchard plays third base because he has that experience. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, it's tough.
But don't worry, we have plenty of outfielders.
Additional injury news: Victor Vodnik just got put on the 15-day injured list with shoulder inflammation as well. That's a big concern. In his stead, they have called up, top prospect reliever Zach Agnos, which is awesome. I'm so excited to
Friend of the
see
show.
him. I'm so excited to see him pitch at the big league level. And we probably will see him tonight because the Rockies burned through a lot of pitchers during the first game of the doubleheader because Kyle Freeland left the game after 36 pitches with that recurring blister on his pitching hand that he's dealt with throughout his career.
Yeah, it's odd how those things keep popping up all the time, but I get it. But yeah, it'll be good to see, Zach. This the bullpen's been used a lot. Jaden Hill was brought up as the 27th man. He'll probably get some action. So I can't wait for both of them to get put in with bases loaded situations, nobody out in a crucial spot so they can give up a grand slam because
Or to
that's
work a bunch of extra innings. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I get that you are stretched and it's hard, but Angel Chivi pitching 3 innings today is bullpen malpractice, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have a long relief guy.
And they still haven't called anyone up to be the long relief guy. They keep shoving Angel and Jake Bird into these long relief situations when they are not built for that. And, Jake Bird has a lot more experience doing it, but Chivi's always been like a single inning guy. And now he's pitching 2 innings, 3 innings. And it's one of those things that really bothers me about how Bud Black manages this bullpen is that he always tries to get multiple innings out of his relievers when it's just not a good idea,
like a
because
Victor
he's
Vodnik.
so desperate to avoid putting in a position player to pitch at any point.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time we were saying, hey, we need a position player to pitch, the Rockies ended up pulling back up within striking distance, where they were down like 9-2 on Saturday's game and ended up losing the game 12-11. But at the same time, the bullpen management's just been bad, and you've got to worry about Vodnik. This is now not the first time he's been put on the injured list, and he's only 25.
Yeah. It's who knows what's going on with that bullpen, and we'll probably talk on it a little bit, but it's alarming because, again, that's another place where you don't have a lot of depth. You don't have a lot of depth at a lot of these places, and they're seeing just the timeline getting pushed up on them for both better or for worse. Because it's good to have Agnos up there. Jaden Hill, even though he's just that 27th man for a doubleheader, good to see him back up and everything. So hopefully Vodnik can get that inflammation down and be all right.
Yeah.
And everything. But you just have to worry every time somebody goes down, it calls into question of, well, how have they been used? And what's everything been looking like? What are the contributing factors to why it's that inflammation's flaring up?
Yeah, it's tough. And I think naturally that leads us to the next guy on our injured list that we need to talk about, where he had some media availability today, and that's Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant, dealing with this ongoing saga with his back, was placed on the injured list last week and came and did some media availability. And he keeps saying he wants to keep playing. He wants to be back on the field. And I have no doubt that he does. But the information that he gives us is not the kind of information that we expect from a guy who's going to be back on this field anytime soon. Bud Black said he was only being put on the 10-day for maintenance, but Bryant, during his media availability, talks about how he is just basically in constant pain, so bad that he's nauseous, especially after these injections to keep the inflammation down and keep his range of movement. He had been getting extra rest days, and that basically is because after 2 games, he's in so much pain that he can barely move and feels like he's going to throw up. He doesn't want surgery, but he acknowledges that it's an option. It's absolutely brutal to hear. And, we've had our frustrations with Chris Bryant, but on a human side of things, we don't want to hear any of this. We don't want to hear how much pain we don't want him to be in this much pain as a justification of him not being on the field or whatever. And he says, like, retiring is not an option. And just,
it is.
I listen to him talk. We hear what he has to say. at this media availability, and I'm just like, Chris, this isn't even a baseball thing anymore. This is can you function on a daily level? Can you play with your kids? Can you go to the grocery store without being in agonizing pain? Because that's what it sounds like you're in right now. And it stinks. It's rough. And I really, really do feel for him.
Yeah. That a lumbar degenerative disc disease, what he was officially diagnosed with, there's the two sides of it that we've talked about, where as a player, and since he's been in Colorado, it's been frustrating that he hasn't been able to play. He hasn't produced. He's getting paid all this money. That part we can, purely get upset about, criticize, all those things. But like you said, there's that human element where you can just straight be a human with some empathy towards another human being. And like, it sucks to hear that for Chris, because it sucks when an injury is keeping you from doing something that you love. And, Evan, that's going to be a really hard, conversation or decision for him to come to. It's going to take a while for him to come to terms or come to that decision of, I'm not going to be able to come back. I'm going to have to retire because of this. And that's going to be a really hard thing for him to do. And so we got to be patient with him for that, because that's not a decision to be taken lightly. Of this is something he's dedicated his entire life to, and then to have it potentially be taken away because of something out of his control that can maybe be managed, and have that determination to come back and not give up on it. Like, you can root for him, hopefully to just get healthy and that he could come back. But we got to be patient with him, and show some empathy of, like, it's not going to be a light decision of hanging up those cleats for Chris Bryant.
And something to remember is it's not just the degenerative disc disease, which is already rough to deal with. He's mentioned that he's basically got arthritis in his back in addition to that, and that he's dealt with bone spurs in his back, which that sounds incredibly painful. Everything he's dealing with is incredibly painful and not really something that's going to get better with age. And I do empathize, because he's in an impossible situation where no matter what, Rockies fans are going to be unhappy. The front office is probably going to be unhappy, and he's going to be unhappy, because I do believe that Chris wants to be out there on the field. I do. He's a ball player. These guys will move heaven and earth to try and be on the field and play through injuries and just try and keep pushing. And I don't think this is something he comes back from. And if I'm being honest, I'm shocked if we see him again this season, especially when no matter what, he gets these injections, and it makes him miserable and in so much pain.
It's that thing where I think he does have to, I think probably in his best interest to undergo surgery. I'm no doctor, but it just, you hear about back injuries across the league. Was it Christian Yelich had to get some sort of back procedure done? Todd Helton back in the day, he had to get some stuff done on his back in those early, like, 2010s or whatever. So and Todd was able to still come back and play a couple years. Still, it's probably going to be the he can try to put it off as much as he can, but I think that just bite the bullet and say, we got to do some surgery to try and correct some of these things and try to work my way back.
Yeah, and it's tough, because biting the bullet on that back surgery means season's over. Yeah, it's done. There's no chance he plays this year.
The season was over once he started playing this year.
But at the same time, it's also a long-term health thing, where if you get this surgery, even if you never play again, it can potentially mean a better quality of life for you down the road.
Yeah. Because like Chris, the Rockies are going to be the same with or without you, buddy. So focus on you. Do your thing. What's in your best interest, not for the Rockies, not for Major League Baseball, for you and your family, because at the end of the day, though, that's what matters. Like this stupid team does not matter one iota.
We will be bad with you or without you.
Yeah.
It's okay.
we're
And I
used to
know
you
that,
not being on the field with us anyway.
and a
So
lot of fans are like, well, he's getting paid so much money. It's like, yeah, he's getting paid that money anyway. That the
yeah,
money is gone. Ignore
that's
the money at this point.
it's not his fault that he caught that he took that money.
Seriously.
It's
Um,
it's the guy who was willing to pay it to him.
Very last thing to talk about in terms of roster movements. We'll keep this quick. Center fielder Brenton Doyle is on the bereavement list. Unfortunately, he and his wife lost the child that they were going for. We send our hearts out to the Doyles, who are just fabulous people. Brenton is a fabulous player. Um, it's a tough one that I am not well equipped to talk about, and all I can say is that I hope he can take his time and doesn't feel rushed to come back, to maximize that amount of bereavement leave that he has to use, and then we can go from there. Because I can't put myself in his shoes, but we also want to make sure the guy takes care of himself and his family. Like, it's the same thing we just said about Chris Bryant. This team can be bad with him or it can be bad without him, and so he's got to focus on his best interest right now.
Yeah, no, it's a tough situation and everything. No, it's something that happened with my brother, one of my brothers back in the day. No, it's tough. It's heartbreaking. And yeah, definitely our hearts go out to them because there's things bigger than baseball. And, we hopefully he does. I know that MLB's stupid with their bereavement lists and everything where it's, a minimum of 3 days, a maximum of 7 days. But like, no, he does not need to be back on this field anytime soon until he's ready to take care of his family
Yeah.
and everything and get in that right headspace and have their time to grieve and mourn and do what they need to do.
Yeah. Would the Rockies be a little bit more fun with Brenton on the field right now? Absolutely. He hasn't played in a couple weeks as he was dealing with that nagging quad injury, and then he has this to deal with. Do the Rockies desperately need him back right now? Do the fans desperately need him back right now? No. This team is gonna lose, is gonna be bad with or without him. It's a team sport, and honestly, just the one guy is not going to be that much of a difference maker. And I think we're all resigned to the fact that it's a lost season already, and that with or without Brenton Doyle on the field, and if him being off the field means he is able to take care of himself, take care of his wife, take care of his daughter, take care of all of that, then that is what I want. That's more than anything. It's the human level that we often ignore in professional sports because there's a level of disconnect between us as the fans and the players as human beings, because we just see them on our TVs and we see them on the field doing the fun sports. And that barrier is broken down a little bit for guys like us where we do talk to these players and we have a chance to interact with them on a more human level. But in the grand scheme of things, there is that, and it's in all sports. It's not just baseball, football, hockey, basketball. There is that disconnect, that breakdown.
Yeah,
where
we see them as products on the field a lot of the time, and they're just there for our entertainment. But beyond that, these are still humans, beings. They're people with personal lives, with their own crap going on in their lives. We learned about stuff with Nolan Jones, in a really nice athletics article, and to whoever the dirtbag is that was sending him awful threats after a missed play in Chicago last year. Like, I hope you stub your toe or something. At the very least, Evan.
Yeah.
But there's a human element to this game and to life. And like we were just talking about with Chris Bryant, like, yeah, do I want Brenton Doyle out there right now? Absolutely. I would love to have him there because we need him. But you also have to understand, like, no, there's bigger things going on.
We need him. We don't need him that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a tough situation. Once again, hearts go out to Brenton and his family while they're dealing with this. We're going to take one more quick break, and when we get back, I'll talk a little bit more about the young guns on the Rockies. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler for our third and final segment here. And Skyler, on a little bit more of a positive note than we ended our last segment on, whether the Rockies planned it or not, the youth movement is fully here. I don't think they intended it for it to go quite this way. But a lot of young guys up right now. Zach Veen, Adel Amador, Braxton Fulford, Zach Agnos, Jaden Hill, Chase Dolander,
Jordan Beck.
Jordan Beck is back up with the big league roster, and it's been interesting to say the least. Where should we start?
But first, I have to quote, life finds a way. Yes. That was my Jeff Goldblum.
That was not a good Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, it was. It's perfect.
No. See, you sound more like Squidward.
Alan.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a youth movement, whether they intended for it or not. But some of these guys are getting to play pretty much every day or most every day. Zach Veen, since he's been called up, has pretty much been in there most every day. They've kind of swapped him in for some platoon situations here as of late, which, yeah, you got to ease him in because he's been struggling in that aspect, but you're still getting him regular time in there and riding with him and trying to evaluate the good and the bad. Jordan Beck was the same way of starting the season. He was out there most every day, and then started into some platoon situation and whatnot. So you're seeing him ease guys in. Amador's the same way, just trying to ease them in and get them that good playing time while mixing in those veterans to try and evaluate these guys.
Yeah, and for Veen, it's been tough because he's not been off to a fabulous start. He's 4 for 30 so far with 11 strikeouts, but we have seen him do some pretty cool stuff. He hit his first big league home run today. And it was a nice no-doubter, estimated 412 feet right out into right field. Awesome. Love to see it. Braxton Fulford has really, he's only been up for a couple games, but he had a golden sombrero in his big league debut. He's had some errors, unfortunately, when he's usually a pretty sound defensive catcher.
Good enough.
Yeah, like perfectly cromulent, but had some difficulties. He had 3 errors in this morning's game.
There could have been more. He was getting underneath the ball a lot on his throws.
It was tough, but he also hit his first big league home run today. And another guy who's been a delight to watch outside of his last start's been Chase Dolander. The continued issue for Dolander is the home run, where especially on that fastball, he is just not getting that fastball where it needs to be, either up or down. A lot of meatballs. He's given up 8 home runs in 14 2/3 innings. Almost all of the earned runs he has given up have been off of the home run. And he finally had his first pretty bad outing of his career where he just got hammered against the Nationals on Saturday. And that's his thing that he needs to work on, because he pounds the zone. He does. And gets a lot of strikeouts. He's got plenty of strikeouts, but the issue is when he pounds the zone, but is leaving those pitches, especially that fastball, to where somebody's going to get to it, he's going to get punished. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of those flat fastballs. He's not getting a lot of zip on him or mishitting bats. So he's not really generating much miss hits or swing and miss stuff. No, he's getting his strikeouts. And I think he currently, after that last start, he was leading the team in strikeouts when he was taken out. So he's doing that aspect. He's not walking a lot of guys. It's just these fastballs that he's leaving up or just missing up in the zone. You can get away with that in the minors. You can't in Major League Baseball. And the Nationals have some good hitters, and San Diego had good hitters. Milwaukee had good hitters. Or the Athletics and Milwaukee, a lot of good hitters. They're going to jump on those fastballs and do damage, regardless if you leave it up. And even if some of them were good placements, still not good enough to get by some major league hitters.
Yeah. He has the second most strikeouts by one on this team. In 14 and 2/3 innings, he has 18 strikeouts. Kyle Freeland has 19 in 26 innings.
Yeah, and Freeland just because Freeland got a start today. So
yeah, he's got a lot of growing to do, but at the same time, I think he's in the right spot. You know, sometimes you learn with a game like he had on Saturday where you get just pummeled.
Yeah. I think it's going to be telling of what he does in his next start, because I think he'll pitch in Kansas City next. So he'll be in Kansas City. He'll pitch the getaway game in Kansas City on that Wednesday. Kansas City has some good hitters, and we'll see how I think that's the thing, like we were saying, Evan, is how does he rebound after that start? What does he take away from it? And then how does he do in the next one?
Yeah.
And we're hoping he can easily rebound in his next start.
Because he's not going anywhere. There really isn't anyone else to call up to this rotation right now. Austin Gomber's not going to be back anytime soon. And they're still working on stretching Bradley Blaylock back out. Like, this is Dolander's job to lose right now. So I think it's going to be really critical to see how he bounces back.
Yeah. Because would it be nice to have our top prospect come up and just be Paul Skeens? Yeah, that would be amazing. But that's just not how it works with the Colorado Rockies, unfortunately. And so hopefully that'll be the measure of what his future can hold. Because, yeah, he seemed a tiny bit rattled after that in that start against the Nationals.
Yeah, that was the first time I've really seen him and gone, oh, he's shaken. Because, like, his first two starts, he gave up 2 home runs in each of those starts, but he would immediately just click back into place, get a strikeout, get an easy out. And after he gave up all those home runs, you know, to top prospects on the Nationals, you know, Dylan Cruz and James Wood, he looked rattled.
Yeah.
And that's the first time in his professional career, I've really seen him look shaken up.
Yeah. Or at least just probably like just pissed off about it. And, because then he gasses up to 100 plus on the next fastball he throws after a home run. So no, it's harnessing all of that and just seeing how he rebounds and continue to work on execution and locating of his pitches, because he's command. He still needs slightly better command. That's something that's still a work in progress for him.
Yeah.
He's got this stuff. He's got it. He's got it all. It's just putting all the pieces together.
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily command in terms of issuing walks, because that really hasn't been a problem for him. It's avoiding contact. It's getting people to chase. It's getting people to miss. You got to start missing bats, especially with that fastball, which has like a batting average against right now of 630.
Yeah. And that's like what I said. If it's kind of like with Senzatella, it's just a flat fastball at times, especially there in Colorado. It's going to be flat. So you got to figure out, okay, where can I place this better? And maybe how can I get a little bit more spin on this to where then it is forcing hitters when they swing and do make contact. Well, it's just a worm burner over to third. It's a high fly ball that's caught, that type of thing.
And that's been the problem with Herman too so far this year. His fastball is very flat.
Mm-hmm.
But, Dollander overall, he's in the right spot on the big league roster, learning against big league hitting. That's, I think, the best way to go about it. And overall, except for that one game, he's been delightful. And there's been some other surprises, pleasant surprises on this team so far. And the 3 that really need to be pointed out are guys who we weren't exactly thrilled to have on the team necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Especially all at once, but it's Nick Martini, Kyle Farmer, and Mickey Moniak.
Yeah. It's move on, because these are the veterans that you don't necessarily need. But where would this team be, Evan, without Nick Martini and Kyle Farmer? Like, legitimately, because these guys have actually given us something at least to look at, especially on that last road trip, where they were the only ones who seemed they could hit against San Diego and Los Angeles.
In San Diego, it was Farmer, where half of the base runners the Rockies had were Kyle Farmer. Almost all the hits were Kyle Farmer. And then against the Dodgers, it was the Nick Martini show with special guest star Kyle Farmer. And you look at how Kyle Farmer's hitting, and they're quality hits where he only has 6 RBI, but that's largely because a lot of the other guys around him aren't getting on base. So he's really not got anybody to drive in. But he's hitting 306, 343, 452 with 9 doubles, one of the higher marks in the league right now. And he's not striking out a ton, and he's not drawing a ton of walks either, but he's just making solid, authoritative contact every time.
Yeah. He's a perfect guy to have as a supporting, character in a lineup, because then he's around a bunch of people who are hitting big boppers and he's in scoring runs and all that stuff. The fact that he's carrying the offense at times, that's where you're like, oh, that's a real problem.
That's your problem. It's not that he's carrying the offense, it's that he's carrying the offense.
Exactly.
And it's the same with Nick Martini as well, where Nick Martini's hitting 289, 360, 333. He doesn't have a home run yet. But he's got a couple doubles. He's got a decent number of hits. He's not striking out that much. He's drawing plenty of walks, but he's only got 1 RBI despite all of that, because nobody around him is getting on or being a threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's great on him. Like, you're always happy for a guy to perform and pull his weight and everything. It's just an even more glaring thing where these guys were not supposed to be the offensive highlights. They would come in, give you some good at bats, but we're counting on Ryan McMahon, Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Chris Bryant, Michael Toliak to carry this offense. Instead, it's Nick Martini and Kyle Farmer.
Yeah.
So good on them, but it's a glaring thing. Neither of these guys are hitting home runs. They're not necessarily like the big run producers. They're getting on base at times, but then nothing
Nobody's
else.
Driving them home.
Yeah, nobody's getting them in. So
yeah,
good on them though. Good on
Nick Martini has been driven in just 5 times, and Kyle Farmer has been driven in just twice, despite being one of the team leaders in batting average and on base percentage.
Yeah,
that's not great. And it's tough because you are missing Brenton Doyle, who numbers wise is the best hitter in this lineup and is currently been performance wise the best hitter in the lineup. And without him, it's been Mickey Moniak in center field a lot, also playing some corners. And you know what? He's not been bad at all. And I was not super thrilled with the Mickey Moniak signing for a few different reasons. But right now, especially with Doyle, off the field and some of the other issues that we're having, he's filling a vital role and is doing pretty well on offense, where I don't think anybody expected when we brought him in that at this point early on in the season, he's tied for the most home runs on the team, and he's got the 3rd most RBI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's come in and he's filled in. He's kind of playing the way you had hoped Sam Hilliard would have developed coming up in the Rockies system. But because that was pretty much the comparison we had, was this is just younger Sam Hilliard, and he's pretty much still is that good, pretty much a good outfielder. He's had some good plays. He's had a couple of miscues, but for the most part, a good outfielder. He's speedy. He's got that power in his bat. It's just a matter of him making better contact, which he is a little bit, and he's had some clutch hits. During that, played a big key role in that big rally on Saturday. And he had a home run, had a triple, represented the tying run, had a bases loaded walk that he had, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he's been a nice little pleasant surprise, and it gives you that confidence of, okay, he can fill in for now with perfectly fine, and he'll hold down the fort until we're able to have Brenton Doyle come back.
Yeah, and hey, that he's got the legs. Like, he's got doubles, he's got triples, he can stretch it out. Really, the only thing missing from his game right now is the stolen bases. And honestly, the base stealing for this team, as expected, has pretty much dropped off a cliff because the Rockies just don't get on base enough. And when they are on base, you don't want to risk it by stealing and getting thrown out. So they've gone back to being very conservative when it comes to the base running game.
Which is weird, because why not try to steal more bases, do hit and runs and all that stuff? Well, I guess you'd have to hit the ball to do a hit and run. So Never mind. I I strike my comments from the record.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing with this team. It's happened the last basically 3 seasons where they go in the offseason. We're going to be way more aggressive. We're going to steal so much. We got all these speedy guys. And then within 2 weeks of the season starting, steals have completely dried up.
You know what? I'm going to lead the league in strikeouts instead.
Which they are. And the strikeouts have been rough. And it's the usual suspects, honestly. It's Michael Toglia and it's Ryan McMahon, who both have 30-plus strikeouts so far. The next highest guy on the team is Hunter Goodman with 17. That's rough. That it's basically 15 more strikeouts than the next guy up for those two. And I think we're seeing Michael Toglia at risk of losing the first base job because he had that grand slam the other day. Awesome. Loved it. But that's basically all he's done this season so far.
Yeah, he'll throw out a couple of little singles here and there, and that's about it. If that. The walks are non-existent.
And it's tough. And honestly, like, I know that we know who Ryan McMahon is as a hitter, but this slow start this year is particularly tough. You know, even him, where he has drawn some walks. He actually leads the club in walks with 9, but he's also struck out 31 times.
Yeah, and has what, like 2 home runs?
Yep, 2 home runs and 3 doubles, and only 4 RBI.
Yeah, Kyle Karros is on his way, Evan. He's getting closer.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. This season is probably, for better or for worse, I am hoping going to cause a lot of change.
Yeah.
Both roster-wise, coaching-wise, organization-wise. You know, it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. And, you know, there's no scenario. Like, I've seen some people hopeful. It's like, well, maybe after this year, Dick Monfort will step down. And it's like, no, probably not. But maybe some changes will happen. And we'll be here for it.
Or if nothing else, Evan, he just appoints his son to just kind of head things up instead.
But whatever happens, that's baseball.
That's true. Isn't that right, buddy?
That happens. That's baseball.
There it is. It's like, it's coming. Wait for it. But yeah, tough start to the season. A lot of change. Definitely not the only change we're going to see. And we'll be here with you every step of the way here on Affected by Altitude. Skyler, where can the folks find you at?
Find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons or over on Blue Sky at stimmons13.bsgo.social. And we're writing Wednesday Rock Piles on purpleroad.com, as well as stuff over at fansfirstsports.com.
And you can find me at EvanLang27 over on Blue Sky. I'd love to hear from you. Remember that you can always find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on your favorite podcasting platforms of choice. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, under Rocky Mountain Rooftop. You can also find us on your social media platform of choice, including youtube.com, where you can find the video version of our podcast at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. You can also find me writing the Monday Rock Piles and weekly Pebble Reports over at purpleroad.com.
Nice on.
And that's going to do it here for us on another edition of Affected by Altitude. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. And as always, whatever happens, that's baseball.
Happy Easter. This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.